Good evening, team.
Good evening.
Hi, Alejo.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening. Hello.
Hello, everyone.
Are we live on YouTube now, Christina? Okay,
Yes.
we'll be getting started in just a few minutes.
I'll check on other board members.
Yeah,
Oh,
we're
actually-
still 3 minutes.
We are still 3 minutes up. You're right. We're early.
Save you a little bit of work texting people for at least 4 minutes.
For me.
Let's see what happens.
Carolyn, your light isn't on. You look like you're in the dark.
Because it goes out every 5 minutes. I was gonna ask for a change. Am I supposed to accept this content of this meeting as being sent to a third party?
I
That
think
might be my AI summary. Is that what does it say AI?
Yeah,
Yes.
It's probably
That's what it
it's
is.
probably YouTube as well. We're currently live on YouTube.
Okay, so
Stream.
accepting both?
Yeah, if not, you get kicked out.
Oh,
I'm just kidding.
oh,
I have no
thought
idea.
I was like, oh, they're
I
doing
have
it.
no idea.
Oh, I wonder if that's why Kate fell out. Hold on.
Oh, did you see her? I didn't see her.
Yeah, she was here.
Oh, there she
There
is.
she is. Kate, I'm not sure if you dropped off because you have to accept the okays and
I don't know if you have to.
yeah. Oh yeah, that was a joke, wasn't it?
It was. You might have to watch the whole video though, meeting with that popped up.
Yes.
That could be annoying.
Christina, you manage the slides for us? Thank you.
Now, if you see Francoise, you could decline that. I don't know what setup she has, but it will join her without her even being in the meeting. Let me call her. Did you see something pop up? Yeah, you could decline that
I
one.
missed it.
I just declined it.
Right. Christina, do you feel like we're good to get started?
Sorry, I forgot I wasn't on camera and I was giving the thumbs up.
Oh.
Yes, yes, go ahead.
Okay. Well, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining. My name is Stephen Tatum, board member of the Hartford Board of Education and chair of the Family and Community Engagement Committee, which is meeting here tonight. Today is March 6th, 2025, and joined here by several board members and as well as district staff and I believe some community partner guests as well. There are some names that I don't recognize here. So if we could just do a quick round of introductions so that we can all be acquainted, then that would be great. Like I said, my name is Stephen, board member, and I will pass it off to Sherry Davis Googe.
Good evening. I'm Sherry Davis Googe. I am executive on special assignment for Hartford Public Schools.
Pass it off to someone.
Yes, I'm sorry. I will pass it off to Dr. Kate Doherty.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I am the Assistant Director of Enrollment and School Choice for HPS. I will pass it to Alejandro.
Good evening, everyone. Alejandro Martinez. I am the Family Outreach and Engagement Manager out of the Office of Strategic Partnerships and Fund Development at Hartford Public Schools. I pass it on to Flor.
Good evening, everyone. Flor de Hoyos, I'm the Director of the Welcome Center under the Strategic Partnership and Fund Development. I will pass it on to Jen Hockenhall.
I'm Jen Hockenhall, board member for Hartford Public Schools. I will pass it to Corinne.
Thank you. I'm Corinne Barney. I am the Chief of Schools. And I will pass it to Viviana.
Hello, I'm Viviana Alvarado, and I'm the Partnerships and Community Schools Manager. I'll pass it to Monish.
Hello, my name is Monish James Barnett, and I am the FCSSP at the district central office, and I work along four schools, and I am under the Department of Family and Community Engagement. Pass it on to, I want to say, is it Miss Rossley? Let me see. Okay.
Thank you, Monish. I'm Carolyn Rossley, the Director of the Office of Enrollment and School Choice, and I will pass it on to Janelle.
Good evening, everyone. Janelle Hooker. I am the Acting Executive Director of the Office of Strategic Partnership and Fund Development. And I will pass it on to Board Member Wilson.
Thank you, Ms. Hooker. Stephen Wilson, nice to see everyone. Board member. Am I the last one? I believe I am. So I'll pass it
I'm
back
here,
to
Board Member Wilson.
all right, then I'll pass it off to Ms. Radley. Thank you.
Yes. Good evening, Connie Ratley. I serve as the Deputy Superintendent for Schools and Academics. My apologies for not having on my camera. And I now think that is it. So I'll turn it back over to you, Board Member Tatum.
Thank you very much. So it is just district staff and board members here with us. Nice to make the acquaintance of those staff here on the call who I have not met before. So great. We've got an agenda full of updates and reports this evening. The first section, I believe some general updates, and then an update from the Office of School Enrollment and School Choice, and mid-year review. Then we'll hear the usual reports from the School Governance Council, report on Title I spending, and the Welcome Center report, and then finally end the meeting with a discussion of home visits. So who am I passing it to for the first round of updates? Is it you, Ms. Hooker?
Yes, sir.
All right, take it away.
So good evening, everyone. As part of our kind of process or shift in our Family and Community Engagement Committee, we are starting our sessions now with updates of activities and events that the office has scheduled for the month of March. We could go to the next slide. So our March to do is today, there was a Strengthening Family and Protective Factors that was facilitated at Parker Memorial to talk about the work that our social workers do at the district. March 11th, we have our Hartford Public Schools Parent and Caregiver Panel, which will be a virtual session. On March 17th, the district is planning to have another budget overview, which will be open to the community. On March 20th, we will be facilitating a family learning session around motivating families in need of services that would be taking place at Capital Community College at 5:30. And on March 21st, we will have our partnership and collaborative panel meeting. And on March 29th, we are looking to host a Saturday breakfast and learn session, which will focus on summer resource fair. And this, I will hand it back over to you, Board Member Tatum.
All right. I would like to give just a quick shout out to the community and families that came to the budget forum that happened last week up at MLK. It was a really successful time to learn more about the budget process and opportunity to provide some input on some tough budget decisions that are coming up. So I would encourage anyone who is watching this or hearing about the March 17th budget overview to definitely check that out. Great. Mr. Wilson, I see your hand. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. I was going to echo some of the same sentiments about the budget meeting at MLK. Quick question. I see that the location is yet to be determined. Are we looking to have the next meeting somewhere that's not necessarily in the north end, but maybe in the south end, west end of Hartford?
So for this particular session, as of right now, we're looking for it to be a virtual session. And I see Mr. Martinez also has his hand up. We will have the information out right after this session.
Thank you.
Mr. Martinez?
I was just gonna echo that. The information for the Zoom invite for the 17th will be going out tomorrow to everyone, community members, families, even district staff members. That will be via Zoom. And then if the idea is if we do need another community budget forum, that it will be in the south end of Hartford.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Excellent. Thanks for those further information. All right. Now we're hearing from the calendar committee recommendations. Is this you, Ms. Barney? Or someone else?
Yep, it's me. I just wanted to see if Dr. Ratley wanted to open. So I was giving wait time, working on my wait time. So yes, thank you for having us. We wanted to give an update on the calendar committee recommendations. Next slide. And so really what we're here to do is just share and obtain any additional feedback. Next slide. You've seen this one before. This includes just overview of the committee members as well as the sessions, and we did include the additional feedback review session with the committee on February 27th. Next slide. High leverage overview of the sessions that I listed in the last time we came to this committee, as well as in the teaching and learning workshop as well. Next slide. This is just the considerations that the team took into place, the state requirements, as well as feedback prior to or from stakeholders around what they would want to see within the calendar. Next slide. Here are the two options, option 1 for 25-26 and the option for 26-27. Again, high leverage overview of what is within the calendar. Next slide. And then also we'll look at what potentially the half day and the full day PL could be utilized as. We're in the process of developing that calendar on what that would look like, but wanted to share with the committee and the board members and the public what we could potentially be using those for to strengthen professional learning with our staff and as well build relationships with families and students. The next slide shows our updated data from the last time we presented. And so you can see that on February 26th, we had 168 families that had responded. As of March 6th, we've had 279 families. We've only had one additional student and one additional staff member, but we did have an increase in parents responding to the survey between February 26th and March 6th. So we have updated the data for this committee on the next slide. The first question was very specific around the professional learning days and how did you feel about those days at the beginning of the school year, the half days and the full day professional learning. You can see that students and families overall felt positive about the professional learning days and the half day schedule. Staff had lower ranking for yes, but also had a bigger chunk of maybe. You'll also see the trends on the side. The overall trend was, and including the additional families, the overall trend was that full day professional learning is difficult for childcare, half day professional learning is difficult for childcare, and or we need additional half days for medical appointments. So the trend was very split around every stakeholder group. As to what would be, effective for each person. Next slide. So then we asked about the transition day and how we felt that family, how the stakeholder groups felt about the transition day. And you can see that students overwhelmingly felt that the transition day was very effective. Families and staff also felt that it was very favorable. The feedback trend that you can note is that we really need to be strategic about not just focusing on kindergarten, 6th grade, and 9th grade, but what other grades could be included within this transition. So, for example, Montessori transitions at different grades. Pre-K has not been included in a lot of our littlest kiddos start in pre-K, or sometimes data shows that a grade is struggling with attendance or engagement, so they might benefit from a transition day. Next slide. The third question we asked was about the extended holiday break and how that worked out for everybody. And as you can see, overwhelmingly, everybody felt that the extended holiday break was effective. The overall trend was that it allowed for everybody to recharge. It was inclusive of everybody, and they felt that it supported, mental health, well-being, and family time. Next slide. Then we asked about the built-in snow day. And again, you can see overall, all stakeholder groups felt that that was very favorable. The only trend really there was that just making sure it's clearly communicated to everybody, and that if there are additional snow days, those would have to be made up as well. So yes, we've got one built in, but if we received, 2 or 3 snow days, they would still have to be made up at the end of the school year. And that would need to be clearly communicated to all stakeholder groups. Next slide. So overall, we reviewed all the additional stakeholder feedback, as we just shared with you. We also went back to the calendar committee on February 27th to review the feedback and note the reduction of half days at the start of the school year, because that was feedback that was brought to us. The committee went through the pros and cons. The pros list was very long. They had the cons around the child care and just the clear communication around, the the usage of the day. However, the committee prefers to stay with the original recommendation that we're presenting to you today. And then we also received additional input from the senior leadership team and parent phone calls. And some of those things lifted there were around, again, the half days at the beginning of the year, maybe starting after Labor Day, as well as just some additional feedback around the survey if we were to give it again next year to make improvements. And I believe that's the last slide.
Are there any further questions about the proposed calendar, which will be up for a vote by the board and approval at the next board meeting? Yes, Ms. Agnell.
Thank you. So my question is just around those half days at the beginning of the year, because I keep seeing a lot of email traffic and a lot of pushback on those half days. Is there an option for students to stay longer on those days? Like I apologize for not knowing that in the elementary schools, but do they have after school activities that they can stay for on those half days, or are they like dismissal time, they have to go and you've got 4 days to contend with?
So that is something that we are exploring. So that actually, when we brought this back to the calendar committee, that was a discussion that we had, is what would additional opportunities for students to stay look like? So we're not able to answer that question right now because we're just in discussions around what that would look like. But that is what we are exploring, is how can we provide students from elementary through high school with opportunities, whether it be enrichment, after school programming, so that they can have the ability to stay for the day, not getting the instruction within their classroom, but having activities supported by different organizations.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Seeing no further questions, we appreciate the update on the process, and we'll have a final round at the board meeting in a couple of weeks, the March board meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now on to the report or the updates from the Office of Enrollment and School Choice.
Thank you. Good afternoon. As promised back in November, the Office of Enrollment and School Choice team is back to provide an update. At that time, we foreshadowed what was to come, and happy to be here to share the happenings since then. Joining me tonight is Carolyn Ross Lee. As she introduced herself, she's the director of the Office of Enrollment and School Choice, and the assistant director is Dr. Kate Doherty. Next slide, please. Our topics for today include student registration, the school choice placement processes, and school choice marketing and our engagement efforts. Next slide. If you recall, one of our primary functions of this team is student assignment. This team is one supporting arm in the Welcome Center that assists families daily on registering their students for schools. I'm going to turn it over to Director Ross Lee to provide an overview on the registration counts for school year 24-25 to date, and she will also provide the update on the school choice placement processes.
Thank you. I'm sorry, I had to turn my lights back on, which only happens through movement, so forgive me. Good evening again. And the chart that you see before you, the table you see before you, represents our registrations for Harford students for the year so far. As you can see, we have very high impact times during July, August, and September, going from we're at 135 for February, and we're up to 303 for July, over 800 for August, and back down to almost 300 for September. So those are very high volume times for us, high volume, high impact. It picks up again in January. You can see we go back to 194 participants, people coming in to register. Yeah, I'm sorry, I went a little fast. I'm going to give you a few minutes to take in the chart. Other areas of interest would be like the kindergarten and ninth grade being high quantity numbers of people coming in to register. You can go to the next chart. Thank you. Wanted to just make sure you understand our choice placement processes. There are two. So for the Hartford Public Schools district choice process, which is for Hartford residents, new or returning or transfers, basically people who are interested in applying for the opportunity to move from their current school to a different school within the district that is either not in their neighborhood in a different zone. So for example, someone can go from Buckley High School to Weaver High School in the application process. This includes the opportunity to apply to Achievement First, which is the district charter school. That's district choice. Regional School Choice Office, or RESCO, that more people may know as the magnet process, which includes magnet, open choice, and Connecticut technical schools. And that is for not just Hartford residents, but residents in the greater Hartford region. Next slide, please.
If I could just ask a quick clarifying question. Does that regional school choice office handle the Hartford Public Schools magnet schools as well?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
The RESCO office handles Hartford Public Schools magnet schools and all the magnet schools in the greater Hartford region, the Chef region.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, but I
And if
would
you
just say
go-
that they manage the process in
Thank
terms
you.
of like, that's where families apply.
Right. I
Okay.
can explain more in the next slide. Next slide, please. This is the choice process, an infographic to help parents understand. It's included in our school selection guide so that parents can understand the difference between district, magnet, open choice, CTEX, and charters. This lets them know what their options are, who can apply to these processes, placement processes, and where they can apply, including the timeline, how they can apply. Let you take a minute to take it in. For example, the district that we just discussed is for Hartford residents. It's all grades. It's Hartford Public Schools is where they would go, hartfordpublicschools.com. And the application process is open from January 8th through April 2nd. The magnet process is below that and operates under a different time schedule, but it's open to not just Hartford residents, all in the greater Hartford area, and its timeline is different. To understand, and that just highlights the rest of the options: open choice, CTEX, and charter. So this is part of our school selection guide, and to also help parents understand if they're not interested in applying, we have our feeder schools, our school pathways. So this helps parents understand if you live in this zone. I see a hand. If you live in this zone, what your elementary school is, zones 1 and 2, what your middle school would be, MLK or Milner, and your high school would be Weaver.
And just know that arrow should be up a little higher and come out of the district chart, the district line in that chart. Just saying that if the families who are not or want to participate in the school choice process, they will have an assignment based on their zone. Okay.
Mr. Walker, I see your hand. And welcome. You missed the round of introductions, but go ahead, Board Member Walker. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Thank you, Chairman Tatum. And just some clarification for me. So as I'm reading this, the charter at the bottom, all right, that's just for Hartford residents, and is Achievement First our only charter school option? Is that correct?
They are the only charter school that we partner with to include them in our process. So their
Okay.
school is listed on the district choice application.
So if I can have a follow-up then quickly. So the student population then at Achievement First, is it mostly then the Hartford residents at Achievement First, Hartford students, or are there bunches of other students across the region at Achievement First?
No, I don't believe so. I do believe that they allow some seats maybe for suburban residents, but not many. This is one reason why they come through our process, because it's mostly Hartford resident students.
That's what I thought. Thank you. And that's clear. Then the final question really was my first thought, and this is around the school transition process. So so this actually represents now the pathway that all students have. So now it's guaranteed if you're at Fox, you're at Burr, and so forth. Now, if you're at a place like in this case, I'm reading this, if you're like a global communication academy, is your only choice in Milner, or do you get the option between Milner and MLK? And is that how we're reading that for that zone, 1 and 2?
Yes, I think one reason it's blurred there is global communications goes up to 8th grade. So they don't need a middle school option. So that's why they trend into the blue middle. Same thing with Kennelly, and same thing with Belizzi.
Oh, okay, thank you. That clarifies. Okay, those students, theoretically, they could move at middle school, but if they chose to stay at their school, they would just go all the way to Weaver and or Buckley.
Absolutely. Yep.
All right, thank you. That's good.
Mr. Wilson.
Thank you. Now that I think about it, I think my question might be served better in a different committee meeting, but my question was, are we, for the parents that are not, or choosing not to involve themselves in the process, we have it set up here for, let's use Rawson, for example. You leave Rawson, you go to MLK, then you go to Weaver. Weaver, Hartford High, Buckley, Weaver in particular has some theme attributes to their curriculum. Are we aligning the middle schools with sort of preparation going into a high school that has sort of a theme based, with the parents not necessarily opting to get into the choice? Are we making sure that our students coming out of the middle schools are sort of prepared for the possible themes that they're going to get into?
Yes, I hear you saying that. Yeah, you're probably thinking it's a better question for teaching and learning, but I can stab at it. So every high school has a freshman academy. And so I would say that it's more about preparing students to be ready for freshman academy versus like honing in on those themes. Because those pathways usually start in the 10th grade.
Yep. Okay. So that actually does make sense. So thank you.
Okay. Yep. You're welcome. Next slide then, I guess.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you. So now we can transition into talking about our engagement efforts specific to school choice. This slide here is just a statement that captures our commitment to ensuring our families are engaged and informed on the school options that are available to them during the choice season. So I'm going to turn it over to Assistant Director Kate Doherty, and she's going to take us through the effort to support awareness and recruitment.
Thank you. So I get the fun part here. Next slide, please. where I get to share some of our sample assets with you. And these are things we've developed to engage and inform our families and make them aware of our options. So the slide's titled Summary of Print. We are excited and proud of our school selection guide, which is a sort of beautiful trifold in 2 languages that captures all school options across the district. Top right is our magnet guide. So that highlights just specifically our magnet schools. And then bottom right is a sample of flyers. So those happen to be promoting the expo. And so all of these print materials are available in schools. So if a family was to come into a school, to the front office, to the school counseling office, these materials are available for them to take home. They're also in our Welcome Center at 280 Trumbull, and we do share them out with partners. So they're in our local libraries and some of our community centers. Then when we have events like the expo, we try to really sort of share in our neighborhoods, like some local supermarkets, corner stores, libraries, Dunkin' Donuts, about events to just build awareness. Next slide, please. So another way to reach families is through postcards. So you heard before, Director Rossley talked about the sort of direct pathways, and we want to make sure that that's really clear to families. So we do a mailing every winter while the application period is open to share with families if they did nothing, they chose to say engaged in our district schools, that they will have a direct line to the next school. So it's really important for what we call transition grades. So those are students moving from 5 to 6 or from 8 to 9. And they get this postcard right to their home, which has some fun highlights to get them excited about school. So our kind of target audience there is the student themselves and their family. And then on the left, we want to just really demystify the whole school selection process. Sometimes it can feel a little bit confusing that there's 2 things running concurrently. So we have the Hartford process and we have the regional school choice process. And we just want to make it crystal clear timelines. So we thought a 4x6 card on nice printed bright cardstock is attractive and accessible to our families. Next slide, please. So we also know that the way people receive information these days are through social media. So the 2 top boxes, learn more about Hartford Public Schools. That was really promoting our expo, which I'll get to in a minute. And then another social media post about sort of promoting on-time applications. And this is, social media, everyone is always about like sort of what generates likes and shares and posts, reposts. And we are really proud that these ads drove over 2,600 families directly to landing on our enrollment and application webpage. So we know that they worked. And then on the bottom, those represent just quick snapshot images of our billboards that ran on both 91 and 84. Next slide, please. Another way our families consume information is through TV. And we are very proud that 3 of our schools so far this year have been highlighted through sort of paid television spots. And so that's just a little sampling with SMSA, Dwight Blizzy, and Annie Fisher STEM. I would love to draw just a little extra attention to the SMSA spot. I was there while they were filming, and it was really unique that our students who take a television and media class got to work right alongside the Fox 61 reporters, use their cameras, and it was just a really overall special moment. So I'm happy that they had that opportunity. Next slide. And then there is on-the-ground engagement, and I think that's a really important aspect is we can put all these things out through media, but it's really important that people get an opportunity to have questions answered and have FaceTime with our team. So we offer extended evening hours in our Welcome Center, and that's staffed by our team where we just hold the office open at night and families get to come, and we advertise that in multiple ways. One of the big ways is we push it out to principals and ask them to post it in their weekly newsletter that goes to parents saying like, hey, if you're looking for new options, you want to understand the process, any questions you might have, there's opportunities for you and get those questions answered. Our schools do an amazing job of opening their doors and saying, come in, see if you could see yourself as a student here at Milner or MD Fox, and feel what it feels like to be in our building, meet some of our parents, meet some of our kids. So we really encourage and sort of tag team with our schools about holding open houses inside what we call their homes. Then we also provide some community-based support. So some of our local libraries hold things like informational sessions to target pre-K families getting ready for kindergarten. Just to understand that process is a little bit different. So we like to staff those opportunities so we can answer questions, provide materials, give examples. And then we are great partners with the State Department's Regional School Choice Office, who offer large fairs where many choices are available, and we get to have some FaceTime with families coming through looking for options. One of our favorite events is the HPS Educational Expo. It was just held 2 Saturdays ago, and it was at Sport and Medical Sciences. And on the next slide, I can show you some moments. And this really is an event where schools get to shine. They get to put their kids on a stage and, show off some of their great talent. It's an opportunity for fun where we have a mascot dance-off. We do application assistance. We have representatives there from transportation to answer questions, food services, and there's even employment opportunities for parents that are of talent management staffs. Transportation was looking for bus drivers. So there's just it's a good array of opportunities, a break from the winter cold to come inside and have fun. And it's informational, informative, and supportive that there's lots of staff available to answer questions and guide parents through the process of school selection. And I think that is it for me.
Thank you, Director Doherty. And that ends our update unless there are more questions.
Thank you very much for that information and overview. I see a question from Mr. Walker.
Yeah, thank you. I have a couple questions about process. Dr. Doherty, I've gone to HPS Expo, nice event, nicely put on. But about process, you mentioned about confusion. I'm believing there's that HPS office and Rusco. And so even though you're saying, well, here's the question. It feels like there's these dual tracks where Rusco does this open houses and HPS has this open house. And so right now it feels like parents need to go to both open houses to get a flavor of what's available through both programs. Is that accurate?
So I go ahead.
I'm just going to start. So I just clarifying question then, please, Kate. You mean the open houses that schools will host, or are you talking about the fairs?
The fairs.
Oh, okay.
The fairs, not obviously in each school is promoting its own program.
Mm-hmm,
I'm talking about when I've looked at the process, there's a whole choice of open choice schools. They have their version of STEM and this, that, and the other thing. And then HPS has its own version of theme schools as well. And so I'm believing a parent needs to go to both of these kind of expos to get a flavor of what's the offering between Rusco and HPS. Is that accurate?
I would say yes, but there's been many years of like really trying to help families understand, like the Resco is doing this because it's not only Hartford Public Schools that they support. There are operators from Craig, East Hartford, Bloomfield. So we do the work, especially in our print, of explaining why there's a Resco opportunity in fairs that happen. They host them in different suburban towns, and they also host them in Hartford. So like they're trying to capture the greater Hartford region. So that's why they have what they have. And then we have our expo that's just not dedicated to school choice. It's dedicated to the district in terms of what Hartford Public Schools has to offer. If you look at these pictures, we have partners there, OTM is there, like all our departments are there. So this is not a singular school choice event. And
Okay.
also, Kate, I'll turn it back over to you. And also we could talk about our engagement at the school level in providing information to our students at every school in those presentations that we work with the schools to make sure our students are aware of the offerings.
Yeah, I would just only add that it's sort of big to small. So I always say to families, if you've never heard of any of this before, right? If it's totally different than your traditional education of going from your elementary, middle to high, then start big, attend a fair, spend some time talking to a few principals and school representatives. And then out of that, pick 3 schools to actually go and visit. And then you'll get even more of an in-depth understanding of the schools from spending time in their community. So I just think, we're kind of meeting families where they're at. And some are very, well attuned to that. They just have their eye on this school because it's close to their home. So we just help them sort of navigate that all. And we really try to reinforce our process through the print, through our website, and our team all being on the same page. So when someone walks into the Welcome Center, they have those answers for families. And then I would, to add on to Chief Davis's Gooch point, is that the schools hold these sort of school option days, mornings, and night events where parents can come, or their target is just talking to the transition kids. And they answer all the questions. They do a nice slideshow about, like, as a student, here's what you can do in understanding your choices and options. So we really are trying to, meet kids where they're at, meet families where they're at, and do our best to inform and share the process.
Okay. Thank you. I think my only feedback is I don't know if it can totally be resolved, but there does seem to be some hint of if it's not confusion, that's slightly being overwhelmed by choices, because it feels like Rusco has this huge range of choices, and so does Hartford. And so it feels like there's not a way to consolidate to create just one universe of choices for people. I do have a question, comment on the front end, and this is around the pre-K and K. I had an experience, I think a year ago, maybe more than a year ago, with a family that was new to Hartford, and so that they wanted to enroll their child into kindergarten, and felt they were their struggle was that as I learned, pre-K is an indirect way to get into programs, let's say like Kinsella Kindergarten. Okay, for people who are experienced, I think people understand pre-K is your starting point, and then your child can maybe be advanced into kindergarten, and there may have been another school that had a similar setup. She wanted her child, let's say, in a school like Kinsella, and there just wasn't an available seat, even though she was new to Hartford. In Hartford, she could not get her child there. And while she was given an option, I somehow believe Anna Grace was maybe her next best choice, which is a school it's located in Bloomfield. And so I'm wondering, is there a way that we can provide some seats or opportunities for families that are new to the city, or maybe who did not participate in the pre-K process, to get a fair chance to get their children into all schools? Or
Yeah,
or is that a situation? I'm just gonna leave it to you guys. Do you guys hear about that also, that occasionally people struggle at that kindergarten and first grade if they didn't get into pre-K?
yeah, I'll say that sounds like coming from your earlier point, your statement around families being able to transition into a kindergarten program if they were in the pre-K program. If we're talking about a magnet school, the only way they can get into that school is to apply for pre-K. There's no separate pre-K program at Kinsella, if I'm just going to use that as an example, that they wouldn't have to apply for. That is the entry grade at Kinsella. And we are saying that that application process is where you apply through the RESCO. So I'm not sure, maybe there was just confusion on the part of that family around, like, there is no opportunity for anyone to enter a pre-K program that's in a magnet school without applying during the season.
And so that's why I put that out there, as maybe some food for thought. This was a family that took a job in Hartford, and so they arrived in Hartford with a child ready to go into kindergarten, and there they had it. And so with all the choices in the world, they somehow felt a little blocked, because
I get it.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah,
and yes.
And I like to describe it this way. There's the school choice season, and then there's the enrollment season, right? And so if you come during the enrollment season, we're going to place you in a pre-K program, work with our Office of Pre-K, right? Where they have open seats in school readiness. If you're looking for a pre-K seat. If you're looking for a kindergarten seat, we're going to place you by your zone. That's what happens when it's not school choice season, because the school choice season is about the upcoming school year. If you come during the school year, then you're in the enrollment process where you come and you get assigned to a school. And we always explain that to our families when they come to us in the Welcome Center, because they believe that, like, oh, it's the Hartford Public Schools has a choice system. And we say, yes, but there's a choice season. So your choice happens during choice season. Enrollment happens when you're in the same school year. So I know it's confusing, Mr. Walker, but we are subject to this larger state RESCO, right? And we also have the work of managing enrollment across our schools as well during the school year. So that's why there's a school choice, and then that's why there's an enrollment season. So I hope that helps explain maybe why that families come in and they believe they have choice throughout the school year, and that's just not the case.
Thank you. I want to keep calling you Chief David Scooch.
That's okay. You call me Executive David Scooch. How's that?
There we go. So right. I'm saying now your explanation was perfected by your years in the role, and it was absolutely on point. But I brought it up because it elevates why an example of how this can be confusing, even though there's all this wonderful promotional material and whatnot, that for families, because I agree, they come to Hartford thinking there's choice, it's really promoted. Yeah. But now you explain that well, you get the point. That I'm just giving an example. That's why it can be confusing. Yeah. Because as you said, there's enrollment season and choice season. Yeah. And so it may be helpful as we have this promotional information to have some ways to help clarify
speak to that.
parents and that
Mhm.
what this really means, and that I believe this family felt like because they're new to the area that everything should be open to them.
I
And we're
got
saying
it.
that is not the case. So thank you.
And we'll do the work. We'll definitely take that feedback and maybe add some language. I know that is one reason why you see that infographic on like the dates of application, right? Because that was one way we wanted to capture, like, this is how you have, this is the time period where you can select, right? So, but that is great feedback for us, and we'll do better in our materials to capture that difference between school choice season and enrollment.
Yeah,
Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, this has been a fruitful discussion, and I do want us to be aware of the time. We're more than halfway through the meeting, and we have completed 2 items on the agenda, and we have 5 remaining. So let's just
Yep.
you know, obviously we need the space that we need to discuss these important issues, and we'll see if we can keep it moving through the last 5 items that we have.
Thank you.
All right, thank you to that team for sharing all that valuable information. Kick it over now to Ms. Hooker, I believe, for these mid-year updates from the
Thank you,
office.
Board Member Tatum. And yes, I'm going to try to go as quickly as possible, but really open to answer questions or any feedback that may arise from the presentation. So looking to share an update from the information that was provided or presented back in November from the office. You're good. Next slide. To give a mid-year report and just to kind of show or ground us on the fact that our office has been working on the 2 big buckets of strategies for student success around equitable access to high quality learning experiences, as well as student connectedness to school. Next slide. I'm happy to say that with these strategic priorities and objectives that the board has now voted on, the work that our office has been doing still aligns perfectly with the whole healthy students priority, expansive learning and opportunities priority. So I'm excited to see that we're not off track, that we are on point with the work that needs to occur. Next slide. The last time we presented an information around the work that we were doing in community schools and the community-based organizations that provide support, we gave you the timeline and the processes that we have in place. So at this midpoint, I wanted to share where we are, and that is the report that we're doing today. Next slide. So we spoke about doing a needs assessment. We did data analysis. We do have all the community-based organizations that for the most part are collaborating with us at the different schools, provide reports. On the slide that you're seeing here, which you will be receiving, and for people that are joining us today, Ms. Santiago, if you could please just click on the document. There is a midpoint report that we require our community-based organizations to provide that give us information around the programs that they're offering at the school, the goals, give us a description. Really also, we track the number of students and individuals that are participating in such services. So you would have access to this information as well. Next slide, please. So I wanted to really bring to our attention today, because in the last regular board meeting, I know there was a question brought up around the partners or partnerships that we have at the different schools. So on this slide, if we click on the bottom, which you also would have, you will have a full list of partners that we have associated with each school. I know there was a conversation. I brought a couple of partners to come to get the extended school hours grant to be accepted, and there was a question around where are the other organizations that are assigned to our school. So our office for this school year has been diligently working to ensure that we can provide the board and everyone publicly what is our ecosystem when it comes to additional organizations providing services and programs to our school. And this is attached to the slide deck that you get, where you will be able to see that at each school, what is the array or the number or the different organizations, community-based organizations that are offering services at the schools for you to be able to review. Thank you, Ms. Santiago. Next slide. For the purpose of our meeting today, I would like to give an update on the community schools organizations, which is one of the areas that Hartford Public Schools do fund these organizations to provide services at our full service community schools. So you are able to see in this chart, for example, Boys and Girls Club, who offers services at West Middle, Dwight Bellissey, and with the extended school hours grant, also added Burr as the list of schools that they will be providing services. You're able to see the break of the different students, but based on those three, we're looking for them to offer services to 195 students. And as of February, when we did our report, there were at 184 students out of the 195. Blue Hill Civic Association is the organization that we have assigned at Weaver High School. Out of the community schools grant, you will be able to see that they had 48 students for them to be able to service under their tier 2 cohort, and under their best program, 44 students, and out of the extended school hours grant, an additional 40 students, for a total of 132. As of February, when we did our report with them, we're at 92 students out of the 132. At the end column, I just want to make reference that for Weaver in particularly, you'll see 132 out of 400, because they have a variety of services that are open for the entire student body. The 132 students are the ones that we're tracking the dosage of services that are being offered and how those particular students are faring with those services versus the other students that are in the school. Catholic Charities, which is another organization that we have with the community schools grant funding and the extended school hours funding, they are providing services at Milner, McDonough, and Parkville. And we're looking for, between those funding opportunities, for them to be able to serve 225 individuals. As you can see, as of February, when we did our report, they actually had 269 students that they're offering services as part of their array of programs that they have for those three schools. The Village for Families and Children is the last organization that we have, which is assigned to provide services to Sand, Wish, MD Fox, Burns, MLK, Burr, and Rawson. And as of February, when we did our report with them, they are serving at this time 449 students out of the 570 that they are allotted to serve. So between the report that we just conducted in the month of February and the month of March, we're currently doing site visits to kind of have as a checks and balances with the report. But based on the report, we do see that the CVOs are, the community-based organizations are currently offering services to 55% of the students that they're allotted to work with for this school year. And we will continue to track them via the data system that we have, where they're able, it's Transact, where they, that is where they have to put the different individuals that they're working with, the different programs and services that are being offered. During our site visits, the conversations are between school administrators, the community-based organizations, and ourselves to really have as a checks and balances on how the service is going. And we look at data collaboratively so that everybody can see what are some of the trends that we're seeing and some of the things that may have or provide areas of growth for them to continue to work on. Next slide. Oh, I think that was my last update around the organizations that are being funded through Hartford Public Schools funding from a variety array of funding, as well as provide an update on where we are in terms of community-based organizations assigned to provide services to our schools that are not necessarily funded by us. They're coming with their own funding, but we're also tracking the services that are being offered there. I'm open to any questions before I move it along on SGC report.
Very, very valuable information that synthesizes so much and will really help us both understand what opportunities and services are available in our schools, and also keep track of the effectiveness of those programs and how everybody's doing. So thank you for that. Mr. Walker, I see your hand. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, gee, you think I'm part of the committee, but I am a board member with questions that Director, I guess, Hooker. The CBOs, I'm wondering, is there a mechanism that would allow us, like board members, to visit the CBOs in their, I guess, natural environment as they're engaging students in the same way that we visit schools?
Yes, so so as part of the process that we have in place, we do 2 site visits per year. We do one in the month of October in the beginning to be able to kind of see how things are starting and progressing. And to ensure that at least what was put in either the contracts or the memorandum of understanding is to a good start. And then we do a second site visit throughout the month of March to be able to now come back with data and really look at the reports and be able to check. But we also are able to stop by unannounced. So I'm saying that to share if any of the board members are interested in doing anything like that, we're more than welcome to be able to facilitate that process for you. Either joining us when we're doing site visits or just to be able to attend and see the students participating in services after school.
Thank you. I would offer that out to my other colleagues to maybe make some unannounced visits or whatever to go see. And the other question, I guess a comment, and this may go towards the chair and to you, Sucker, is around student outcomes. I get pressed on that more than anything else about, and all I can make is a comparison, right? If we have the MTSS within the schools, and so if a young person has a reading problem and goes to a resource teacher and goes to tutoring and so forth, there's a way in which that young person is tracked and their progress is really noted, and someone's got to track it and show that they made some progress in this area. For instance, I've never seen quite with CBOs that we have a similar type of thing. If it is that, then yeah, I'd like to elevate that some more so we can really see the students, like you're tracking them. Is there before and after? What is the impact of them being part of these programs for the course of the year? That's why I'm going out there. Can we have it that way, or yeah, that's the comment, is can we get some harder data on what academic progress or social emotional progress are these students making from the engagement?
Yes, so I'm happy to share that with the work that our office has been doing and utilizing the federal funds that we receive through the North Hartford Ascent Pipeline, as well as the full service community schools. We do have a data analyst staff that is currently working with our office and our community schools manager and myself, where we are looking at the information that our community-based organizations are entering into the Transact data system to be able to tag those students into PowerSchool and look at what the ADA or what the attendance is looking like for those students that are participating in services, what the behavior referrals is looking like for those individuals that are in those services, as well as any trends or information that we can see within reading and math for academics. So we have been this year building out a system where we have not only the data system that we're tracking, but we also have monthly check-ins with the resource teachers at the schools that we're piloting this to see how we can have this construct of data to be able to bring back and report to the board, as well as a cadence of meetings that we're doing with the social work team to be able to also look at those referrals that are happening via the social work as well and see how that's being tracked. So we have been diligently this year working out and what that looks like, that ecosystem, to be able to provide a report. So I am looking or hoping to be able to be at one of these committees to bring back the information that we have collected throughout this year, to be able to see where they were when the program started and what the information was that we saw at the end and how they trended. So that is currently the work that we're doing right now, which is why we have the site visits, the reports that the providers are sending in to us, and the data systems to be able to kind of compile and do that data analysis. So more information to come on that.
Thank you. And if through the chair, if I could give a quick comment. That's exciting, Director Hooker, that's exciting. So I think but that's just happening this year. I haven't heard that happen before, that Transact database, people entering it, you're getting data analyst help, you said, from the North and the Send pipeline, as well as your own staff.
The full service community schools grant, yes, sir.
Right, working through resource teachers. One, you do that little extra baby step for me. If you can chart that process out and put that into a couple slides, I think that would be great to show the board. That sounds like a process that may actually produce some real fruit, and so I think that's worth documenting and showing us that process.
If I may, Ms. Santiago, if you can go back to the slide that has the another slide. So this slide shows that we started the process doing a needs assessment. The needs assessment had a variety of stakeholders that we worked directly with the principals to really ensure that it wasn't only principals and not only family members, but we even included security guards, because they may see things that other people are not seeing, right? That can also help inform how the services are happening, particularly in after-school programming. The data analysis is the work that we are doing with this individual that I said, the data analyst that we have as part of us. And we want to make sure that it also aligns with the school excellence and accountability plan. So the PSEA that each one of the schools have is also a part of the process that we have in place and embedded now, not only with the memorandum of understanding, but as they are offering their services and we're doing our site visits, we want to make sure that there is correlation there, because that's why the service was brought into the school. We're looking to be able to transition into doing some resource mapping. We're not in that stage yet, because that is the part that, due to the financial constraints that as a district we have, we'll be able to assist our school administrators. We're going to be working with them to not only do a needs assessment, but to also be able to do a mapping, a resource map, or an asset mapping that will help them look at, here are the gaps that we have. What does the community ecosystem of the schools look like? And what are some of the additional resources that come in? That is some work that is coming. That is what we're currently doing now. So I'm hoping to be able to report at that as I get closer to that. But the data analysis is the part that I'm hoping to be able to bring back to this board because of the work that we're currently doing right now and aligning it to the PSEA that each one of our schools have as part of that pilot.
So I'm glad you went back to the slide. The slide looked good, but it needs the beefing up that exactly that you just talked to. The slide was good, but to me, I got more excited once you start putting actual roles, like to add to this slide somehow, or additional slide, to really say, here we actually talk to principals, here we actually talk to resource teachers. Those are people I know would know it, so I know you're getting good stuff. And the resource mapping, I wish I could be a part of that, because asset mapping, like you're talking about, to try to identify additional resources that could help in achieving this goal, that sounds great as well. So the other thing would be great on this one is some kind of a timeline kind of thing. Even if you don't get it all done this year, it'd be great to see that it's moving along, that we got this much done and we'll get more done. That would be fantastic. Keep the slide and embellish it, and maybe we can talk to it every time you like bring it forth to us. Thank you.
That's an excellent input because that's what we're working towards. So Ms. Santiago, please add me for upcoming agendas when we connect with Board Member Tatum to see at what point we come back with that information, because it is exciting work. And I'm happy to see that Board Member Walker is looking for us to report out on that and be able, with the input that you're giving us, to be able to really give you those steps that happen and what are the key stakeholders that we have been working with around that information. So more information to come, because that is the work that the office has been really focusing on this school year.
Very good.
All right.
Excellent. On to the, is it the SGC report that's up next?
Correct.
All right.
Good evening, everyone. Christina, you can go to the next slide. So this information is as of February 25th, which is last Tuesday. We've had an increase of SGC full membership. We went from 22 schools to 24 as of February 25th. We have 4 additional parents, so we went from 244 to 248. No movements in teacher membership. And we had 1 additional community-based organization, 1 additional partner, from 68 to 69. As of last February 25th, we were at 63.2% of full membership, which is the 14 members, and at 36.8% with schools SGCs between 9 to 13 members. And the reason why I say as of last week, the 25th, was because we submitted the report a little bit earlier, so the month had not really finished for us to give you a full report. So I have to let you all know that we have added 2 additional schools to that 24. So we currently have 26 schools as of last Friday that are in full membership. Those 2 additional schools were Burns and Moylan. So that puts us at 26 schools with full membership and 12 schools between 9 and 13 members. I currently have 3 additional schools that will be hosting elections next week, and those schools are Global, HMTCA, and Noah Webster, and they'll be voting in their new SGC CBO. So hopefully that number will continue to rise as it's been happening since the beginning of the school year. Next slide. Before we move into Title I, any questions on SGC membership? No? Perfect. Oh.
Sorry, I have one question.
Sure.
Is there a goal, and I'm new, so I'm sort of catching up, so thank you for all the work that you all putting into this. It's really great to meet you all and to be in space with you. The question that I have, and again, sorry if you've already answered this, is there a goal for, is there an established goal for the SGC growth that we want to see on the district?
Well, my established goal is to have 100% by the end of this month, because as we all know, we're in the middle of budget season. So SGCs are part of the budget process with the budget sign-off forms and informing not only the parents, the teachers, and the community-based organization. So our department goal is to have a full SGC for each individual school by the end of this month.
Amazing. And that's historically has happened as well.
Yes.
Okay, beautiful. Thank you so much.
If we don't have any further questions, we could move into the Title I report. In regards to Title I, as I have previously discussed during our February meeting, there was a shift of a new hire over at the state. So we were undergoing a quick audit just so that that person could get acclimated. There were some alignments and different budgets that were given to us based off out of that audit. So our new allocation based out of that was $141,446 and 71 cents, which of that, as of February 25th, $85,000, 742 with 75 cents were encumbered. So we have a remaining balance of the 39.4%. The same as the SGC report. By the time this presentation was put together, the month had not ended. So to that expenditure of $85,742 and 75 cents, we can add an additional $8,217 or 71 cents that have been spent on Title I parental engagement activities at the school level. We are currently, and when I say we, myself and the department are currently working with each individual FCSSP, school administrator, and their parent committee to ensure the Title I funds are allocated full completely. We do not want to send any funds back to the state. So we want to just let you know that we are in a full process of meeting with every single FCSSP and admin to ensure that the total 141 plus funds are spent and allocated for parent activities from now to the remaining of the school year.
Could you remind me really quickly, Mr. Martinez, this allocation is inclusive of the district level and the school level Title I funds for family engagement, or is this just the money that's allocated to the district?
This is for Title I parental engagement. This is the total amount of dollars for the I'm going to say the entire district, including the piece from the money that we see from our office for Title I, in addition to every single school.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, if we have no questions, we're going to pass it along to Ms. Flor de Hoyos, who is the Welcome Center Director.
That would be me. Thank you, Alejandro.
You're welcome.
I will be presenting for and I'll make it short and sweet, for the Welcome Center. If you see, this chart shows you that in January, the Welcome Center had 569 intakes, and these are our complaints, our concerns, and all our requests. For the year, we've had so far, the year hasn't ended, 3,856. Next slide. In this chart, the first area, you see the intake in the if you look at January compared to last year, January of last year, we had served 347 families. This year, we're up to 569 for the month of January. So you can see the amount of increase that went on. On the side of the slide there for engagement and services that were provided, we took the top 3 areas, and the top 3 areas for engagement and services were transportation inquiries, displaced family support, and basic needs assistance. And at the bottom, the engagement services were provided to obviously all of the schools. For the top 3 schools for elementary schools were Naylor, Sand, and Burns. For the middle school was Burr, McDonald, Kennelly, and for the high school was Buckley, Hartford Public High School, and Weaver. Any questions?
Just a reminder that the full report has been emailed to board members so that you can get more into the details. I also see the fine print at the bottom of this slide and look forward to someday soon having some of this data available on a more real-time basis through the data. What's the word we're calling it? The dashboard, I think. Is that it?
The Open Architect dashboard. Yes.
Yes. Okay.
So that is in progress.
Yep.
Board Member Walker, just in case you're thinking, that's not yet, but we are working on that as well for the Welcome Center.
Are there any questions for the Welcome Center? All right. Thank you for that report, Ms. Teos, and again, welcome.
Thank you.
Glad to have you on the team. All right. Final item on the agenda is an update on home visits.
And that will be me again. So we just wanted to share with everyone the different types of home visits that we have in the district. And so we have the regular home visits, but in addition to that, we have the LEAP Twilight visits. And LEAP stands for Learning Engagement Attendance Program. So I'll go very briefly through this side and I'll explain, right? So regular home visits at the school level are being done for the child's well-being. They're done to offer support to the child and to the family for attendance or academic or behavior concerns, and for any family follow-up or any home visit follow-up, right? LEAP home visit, and I'll explain what LEAP is once I go through this. They're there to support for students due to absence, additional educational services, resources, intervention to address the root cause of why the child is being out. In addition to that, relationship buildings with the families. Who conducts the home visit? As you can see, we have some of the positions in blue and then some in regular. The regular home visitors are the FCSSPs, the behavior technicians, the social worker, and the student engagement specialists. In addition to that, with the LEAP, we have those roles, but also, oh, can you go back, Christina, real quickly? Thank you. We have the school guidance counselors, administrations, and then the teachers, they do their own home visits as classroom teachers, right? And so just to give you a little bit of context of what is LEAP, back in 2021, which seems like such a long time ago, when COVID arose, the state and when the students were returning to school, we obviously noticed, the state noticed that there was a huge amount of students that were chronically absent. So the state provided funding not only to Hartford, but at that particular moment to 13 additional towns to conduct home visits to increase the number of students that were actually returning to the schools, build relationships. In addition to that, to reduce chronic absenteeism. Next slide, Christina. The key difference in responsibility, right? Because sometimes we hear about the FCSSPs, the BTs, social SCSs, and social workers. In my particular case, we're going to discuss the FCSSP responsibilities. As you all may know or may not know, the FCSSPs are a part of our department. It's an area that we personally manage and supervise at the school level. And the FCSSP's role is to plan and coordinate family and community involvement in the schools, facilitate communication between families and community around student progress and support needed, and coordinate family engagement programs. So the FCSSPs, they not only do they do home visit, right? That's just a small portion of their job, but they're also building relationships with families, conducting home visits. They're a part of the SAT process. The ACE, which is the attendance, climate, and culture committees at each individual schools. In addition to all that, they plan the family events at each individual school, such as family literacy night, family numeracy nights, family workshops, such as financial literacy, special education rights, and internet safety. So that's just a small scope of what FCSSPs do at the school level. Next slide, Christina. With this slide, you can see that with the home visits, the trend from 2022 to 2023, we have 4,319. The following year, 23-24, 6,590 home visits were conducted. And this year, at this particular moment, we're up to 4,847 home visits. Out of those 4,847, 72% of those are through the Lake Twilight home visit that the committee actually does. Next slide. And in this slide right here, as you can see, we keep track when the team members go out to visit the homes. They actually have to enter in PowerSchool the outcomes of the home visits, the reason why the home visits were done. So here you can see that there's a different different areas where an FCSSP or a Twilight team will go out to conduct a home visit. So it could be an academic concern, attendance, behavior, career development, health and wellness. It could be no-shows at the beginning of the school year, relationship building, any concerns that the social worker may have. And there is an additional 20.5%, which could include a little bit of everything. Next slide, Christina. Okay. As you can see, based on the chart towards our left, you can kind of see where we were with the amount of students that were chronically absent once COVID started hitting. Our peak obviously was in 2020, 2021. And as you can see, based on the trend, the amount of home visits that have been conducted, the relationship buildings that have been done, we can see that that number has continued to decrease throughout the years, which is something that we are continuously working to make sure that that number has reduced. On the right-hand side, you can actually see the year-to-date chronically absent. So K-12, the average attendance for the specialized students and multilingual learners. Next slide. Any questions? Well, if you ever have any questions, feel free to notify Christina, and Christina will definitely notify us, and we will be able to answer any questions you may have. Janelle, I see that you have your hand up.
I'll wait for Board Member Tatum to see if I can.
Sorry.
Go ahead, please.
The only thing I would add is the team of people that conduct the home visit is a collaboration between the Office of Strategic Partnership and Fund Development, so the FCSSPs, which fall under our purview, as well as staff members that are from different buckets of work, but we collaborate heavily with Chief Barney, who is the Chief of Schools. So the Office of Schools and our office collaborate heavily on the home visits work that occur.
I'll just share a comment that I very much appreciated that slide that looked at the responsibilities and roles of those different positions in the building. And I would encourage you to send those to SGCs, who I think are going to be having to make some tough decisions about how their budgets will be allocated. I know that there was a revision made to the like starter budget that was given to schools that is going to give schools some more discretion with how some of those non-certified positions are allocated and how schools will have choice. And I think that slide would really help them talk about what those roles really are and how to make sure that they're able to best support their needs in their buildings. So thank you for that.
Will do.
Are there any other questions or announcements or updates or anything of that nature? Look at that. It is 6:30 on the dot. We did it. This concludes the meeting. Have a wonderful rest of the evening, and we will see you all at a future meeting down the line. Thank you.
Good evening.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.